Okay, let's begin that. Regular meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming out tonight in beautiful weather. You got it wasn't tomorrow, it's supposed to rain. So let's start with the roll call.
Mrs. Hoover. Dr. Crew.
Here.
Mrs. Crew. Here. Mr. Krimenacher.
Here.
Mrs. Krimenacher. Here. Mrs. Lee. Here. Mr. Shell. Mr. Basil.
Here.
Ms. Zenshaw. Here.
Okay, do we happen to have any guests or patrons sign up to speak?
Diane.
Okay. All right, Diane, you might as well go ahead. Don't forget, we're gonna do 5 minutes and please keep it pertinent to our agenda if you can. Thank you. State your name and your address, please.
My name is Diane Wexlunski. I live in Northern Cambria, the Municipal Road, in Township, and this is not my first rodeo. I'd like to open my remarks on a very positive note. In the agenda, I see that I spoke last time on behalf of the library, not that they asked me to, but because I felt the need to do, because they had been so helpful to me professionally when I was reading Team Coach. I see it is in the agenda that a dollar amount is there being listed as a stipend to the library. And I want to thank, I'm assuming that it will pass. I want to thank you for it appearing in the agenda and hearing me speak the last time I was here. To be honest, there are a couple things in the agenda I don't quite understand. So I'll probably have to stay to the end, like motions in relationship to people retaining jobs and being negotiated with and so on and so forth, like the superintendent's position. Having been the secretary of NCEA for 32 years prior to my retirement, I dealt with many superintendents. We were part of a team. You know, Paul Artley was my president for many, many, many years. And we dealt with a lot of things, and a lot of them came down to communication. And because I sat here and listened to a vote 5-4, where the board would not speak to the non-professionals and the professional staff about things that were just going on and the way they felt, and trying to build rapport with different groups within the district, I'm very concerned about some things that I see in the agenda. The teachers in that situation and the non-professionals in that situation, in my opinion, based on experience, had many routes to go, which would have been very rocky for the board. You know, grievances, unfair labor practices, things that are really serious in nature. They have not chosen to do that at this point. But we are an organization with interpersonal relationships that need to build upon rapport. So maybe that's the reason they didn't do that. I am concerned, and I want to speak that of all of the superintendents that I've worked with, some were of superb quality, some were far less. And some I didn't even get to know because they left so quickly from Northern Cambria. I want to say and commend Dr. Bosonic for the way in which I have seen her practice her job with students, with the board, and with teachers and administrators. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else, Karen?
No, nobody else.
Then we'll move on to student recognition.
So I have several students to recognize tonight. I will start with Kayleen Hostetter. She's here. All right. Scarlett Ostrowski. Hi, Scarlett. So Scarlett was part of the sixth grade band festival. Come on up, Scarlett. What instrument do you play, Scarlett?
Clarinet.
Clarinet, me too. Congratulations. Thank you for coming. How about Bella? Bella here tonight? Not able to make it? How about Mia Laverick? Brandon Arden. Hey, Brandon, Mia and Bella were in the sixth grade band festival as well. And so was Kayleen. Brandon Arden is being selected into the National Technical Honor Society for Early Childhood Education. So that's quite an honor. I think Gerald Berkey is here tonight.
Yep.
Wonderful. So he is being selected into the National Technical Honor Society for Digital Media and Cybersecurity.
Yep.
Congratulations. And is Ava here tonight? Ava was also a member of the sixth grade band festival, so congratulations to all those students. Thank you. That's all I have.
Well, thank you very much. Congratulations, guys. Superintendent's report.
I wanted to pass along a thank you from Mrs. Dasco. She took some students to the Artist Hand in Indiana. And they made some pottery and they were participating in something called Empty Bowls. And with their help, with students' help, the organization was able to raise over $8,000 to donate. So I will pass that around for the board to see that. Plans are also underway by Mrs. Stasko to make sure that she is going to be placing some artwork down in the storefronts in Northern Cambria. So they will make sure that that'll be from mid-April to early May. And Mrs. Datsko will be taking that down there. And so we're pretty excited about that the organizations and the businesses are willing to support that. And I think I made a mistake here. Tyler.
Yes.
Tyler's here. I'm so sorry, Tyler. Come on up. Yeah. And so what was yours for? Powerlifting. Oh my goodness, that's right. So tell us how you did. When you,
I got first place in the 114 weight class and best overall lightweight lifter.
you look like a powerlifter. If not, Mom will make sure we get him a certificate. So we appreciate you coming. And I'm sorry I missed you there. Graduation is all set. We are currently still looking for a venue. I'm worried about the bridge being out. Didn't think of that, so we will keep, of course, parents and the board updated what we need to do with that. And the only other thing I have to report, I'm going to be asking the board formally next month to allow the administration team to go to Summit 24. This is a retreat in August 4th through 6th. Pills credits are available. I'd like to send the entire administrative team to that. Lisa Prebish went last year and she said how wonderful it was and how much information she got from that. So I'll be officially asking for that, but just wanted to let you know. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Monthly financial report.
As part of your agenda, you could have the treasurer's report. Just briefly, the beginning caption are, again, this is only our First National Bank account. It was $1,666,000. We had a total of.
Thank you.
The report shows total receipts of 1.8 million. However, 900,000 of that is a transfer from Pliget. So the actual total revenues for the month of March were $923,910. Expenditures, again, the report shows $3,253,000. However, of that, $1,280,000 was transferred out of the general fund into the Pliget accounts. Therefore, the total expenditures for the month were $1,973,620. The other accounts listed, are the FNB, the athletic account, $993, the activity account, $53,000. For the high school and the elementary is $19,000, cafeteria is $1,600. Capital reserve account shows a negative, but that check, those checks were written out on the 30th of, February, and the transfer, or I'm sorry, the 30th of March, the end of the month, and a transfer was made for the 1st of April, which was Monday, to cover, for $150,000 to cover that. So in essence, the balance was $7,000. And also the, capital reserve is, the sweep account is $5,100. The Liggett accounts, the general fund, end of the month was $2,510,000. Capital reserve, just the regular account that we use for, capital reserve funds, is $2,716,000. Athletic fund is $135,000. The series 2022 bond account is $10,202,000. And the series 2023 account is at $9,762,000. For a grand total of $25,327,000 at the end of March. The total dividends earned during the month of March was $191,005. That's it for the cash accounts. But one other thing I wanted to go over very quickly is to give the board and public an update on the consolidation costs, where we're at as far as how much we're gonna pay out, how much we've already paid out, and the balances, the estimated cash drawdown schedule. So if you look at the packet that has the colored lines on it, starting with A through E, you remember back in December, I provided the board with a copy of what the costs remaining on our project were at that time. As you can see, the green line item shows that at that point, the project was, the outstanding cost was $26,889,000. However, since that, I wanted to update everybody as of where we stand right now. So at that point, we owed the 26 million. However, we spent $1,774,000 to reduce that amount down. You can see that as a deduction. The other issue is the door hardware. That is added on. When I prepared this report, I was not aware that $200,000 of door hardware was not included in the bid, the initial bids from the contractors. There was some miscommunication or some misunderstanding as far as whether that was a soft cost or whatever. Regardless, that amount of money is still has to be added into what is going to be paid out from this point forward. So if you look at the bottom there, the total remaining amount to disperse is $25,315,000. Now, you can see I highlighted that number with a circle with a V after it, or a V with a circle around it. That takes you to page 2. Initially, when I gave the board this spreadsheet, I had tried to show, and it got a little confusing, I think, to the board as well as anybody else who's looking at it. All of the CDs, I was trying to determine what maturity dates and whatnot, and what rate would be and the dollar amounts. So what I did is, if you look at your top lines, the April column, if you see In the blue, it shows the capital reserve balance of $1.6 million. And that is derived from, look at page C. What I did was I said, okay, how much do we have in F and D right now? And how much do we have in Pliget? And so you can see the totals, and I have the background there for it all, the entire account. Now, that Pliget dashboard that I've given you there includes some general funds, athletic funds, and other funds that really aren't part of the capital project. That's why they're not included in. So in essence, the 1.6 million is the total liquid cash we have right now in the capital project funds. That could be, that's how I came up with that 1.6. Now, if you look at all the other colored blocks, those are existing CDs that we have in place with the due dates listed beside it. So those are the face values, and as you look and they're color coded down along the received or existing line, that's gonna be their mature value whenever they come due. So they're listed there. The only other thing in that column that's received or existing is the amount of money that I anticipate we will transfer out of our general fund each year into that project. So you see $850,000 in the next 2 Junes, and then at the final time of the project, another 200,000. So looking at column A, the needed draw, you can see that's a blue number. That 25,315 is the exact number that I anticipate we'll have to spend from this point on. So that shows how much we're gonna have to spend, and the rest of this spreadsheet shows how that money is going to come about. Now, forgetting about reinvesting those funds into a term product, which they are now, the color-coded ones on the columns saying mature. I considered, for the sake of simplicity, showing if we just retain those funds in our Pliget prime account, which is not a term, it's just, it's liquid, but it's typically been running close to 5.5%, 5.4%. So what I did was, and if by chance term products were more attractive, I will absolutely invest it into the term products. But again, for simplicity's sake here, using an estimate of 5.25%, which is lower than what we're really getting, I figured out how much money that capital reserve balance will pay us on a monthly basis if it's earning the 5.25%. So as you can see, we start off with this 1.6 million in liquid funds. In May, we're gonna get 5,018,000, and that's the 4,900, or I'm sorry, 4,900,000 CD that's gonna come due. That's its maturity value. So that's the amount of money that we're gonna get in. The interest that we will earn is 7,000. That gives us an ending balance of 6 million. Well, then in May, we're gonna also have to spend money on the project. Now, I used my best guess based on what SiteLogic originally gave us as far as their drawdown to come up with these numbers. They have told me that, throughout the project, it's about average, just taking the total project cost and dividing them out by the number of months. So that's what I did based on their numbers and what I could compute to come up with that grand total of $25 million. So as you can see, as time goes on, the funds reduce, they keep going down. And at the end, it shows that there's a negative $67,000 in if everything works out exactly as it's shown here. And one of the things that you want to keep in mind is that 25 million includes or it doesn't include, but I did show it as a cost, the $40-some thousand that Penelec charges, which is part of the money that we set aside for, oh, 650,000.
Contingency.
Change order, yeah, so anyway. I'm saying that if you add that back in, which I didn't deduct it out from I showed it as the expenses, but I didn't reduce down the amount of money we're gonna need from this point on for, change orders. We should be somewhere around $20-some thousand as a shortfall. And again, in that period of time, I have no problem with the district being able to make up that kind of a deal. So anyway, this is my best guess as to what's happening, where we're at on the project based on what we have spent up to this point and what we still haven't spent. As I explained to, Mara when she was in and Mike, we have budgeted for this year's, capital or general fund, $200,000 for this hardware project. I showed that as a line item under expenditures for this year. Don't anticipate that we're gonna have to spend it this year, but I want to put it in a budget. If we don't spend it, we can continue to carry it over when we get to the end of the project. If we don't have $600,000 worth of change orders, then we won't need to send that money over to the capital reserve. So again, a lot of that's work in progress, but I think there's a good basis for those numbers. And it looks like we're at least for what cash we have now, we're very close to being able to take care of all the expenditures that will come up, provided we don't go over $600,000 in change. Any questions? Yeah, once you get a chance to look at it, feel free to give me a call.
Okay, minute approval. Be it resolved, the minutes of the March 5th, 2024 minutes committee of the whole meeting and March 19th, 2024 regular meeting are approved as presented. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Mike Basil. This is Jenny Zenshaw. Questions or comments on that? All in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Treasurer and financial report, be resolved, the treasurer and financial report for March 24th or 2024 be approved as presented or amended, received and filed. Motion on that one? Motion by Mrs. Mark Schumacher. Motion by Mrs. Norm Krug. Questions or comments? Mr. Farage, if it's up to date, okay with that stuff, so. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, the enrollment report is on your agenda. Basically, we're sitting at 812 students as opposed to 833 last year, 180 IDEA, and 21 gifted as opposed to 194, 19 gifted, and 71 kids going to VOTEC. All right, we're gonna go into the action agenda, buildings and grounds and cafeteria.
Softball field. Item A, be it resolved, the Board of Education approves issuing a request for proposals for the softball field improvements.
I'll make a motion for that. Is that Mr. Mike Basil? Questions or comments? All right,
Do we know the scope of work or what are we asking, what are we proposing be done with it?
approved.
Well, obviously, but do we have a plan for that? Would we be, or do we have somebody coming in to assess what needs to be done? How are we gonna determine what we're, we're gonna have broadband? I don't know, what are we doing? Seems like a vague notion.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
To reiterate what Danielle saying, I don't think anybody disagrees that work needs done with softball field. I think just to make sure we get it up. Do we have a specific RFP we're putting out just to make sure that we meet the requirements of the field has to be, I guess? Be for Carol, I guess, since you're building the house.
Yeah.
We do.
We don't have a plan. We have no drawing. So we need a proposal from someone to tell us what we need to bring it up to
what we want.
So do we have to approve to get that proposal written before we put an RFP out to the public, or are we putting out for, just to clarify, are we putting out to get someone to write the?
We're asking, someone to write the, specs for what we need. That's the requirement.
That's not exactly what the motion reads, so.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you could say something along the line, put out a request for, RFP be written. I'm trying to understand, just to make sure, I don't, again, nobody made it, one thing, you get the softball field up here, maybe. I thought we were putting out an RFP for the improvement.
Okay, just want to reread? It's not changing.
Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves issuing a request for proposal for the design of the softball field improvement. That's good.
Yeah, thank you.
I still make the motion. Mike, you still gonna second?
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions or comments further? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, item B, appraisal of high school. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves to immediately post and advertise for a company to appraise the value of the high school and attached upper parking lot.
I'll make that motion. Second, Mr. Mike Basil. Questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? 8-1, Karen.
So,
I'm sorry, 7, PJ, don't hear.
who opposed? I'm sorry.
Daniel.
Okay, thank you.
7-1.
Okay, building project update, item C. Discuss any updates on the building project. Dave, do you have any updates?
Yes, we have, some movement on the Penelec Power Service relocation. We have a scheduling meeting tomorrow, scheduled for 11, for them to tell us their plans and schedule for the upcoming work. We are starting caissons, which is the foundation caissons, on Monday. We're gonna mobilize possibly Friday, get started caissons, and hopefully we can get the, electric service moving enough that we can keep right on the foundations. The interior finishes in the classrooms, the kindergarten rooms, the painter, ceramic tile, flooring and ceilings are all are all scheduled to be within the next 2 weeks. So our interior finishes are going well. Any questions?
Thank you, Dave. Okay, item D, site logic, building questions and answers and discussion of available grants.
Unfortunately, I have to apologize. The discussion of the available grants is not in my wheelhouse. But if anybody has any questions, I can take them and I can get them to the appropriate people.
And I can add a little bit with that. I was talking with Andrew and we can put on, or we can look for a facilities improvement grant. We can get up to 5 million, but we do have to pay 25%. I wasn't sure what the board wanted to do in regards to that grant. If you're planning on selling the high school, then you don't need the grant. If you want me to see what money I can get with the grant, Andrew's willing to help. See what we can get for that, but again, there'll be some cost for the district, so I will need some direction as to how you would like to proceed.
Laura, do you know if in applying for the grant, you would need to offer as part of the proposal, the plan for the high school? I feel like it would be difficult to apply for a grant if,
I'm sure.
you know, we would have to get them on what our plans are. We can't just ask for money. So,
Yeah.
So, pretty soon we're gonna read about the door hardware motion. Do we know of any grants that could be available for safety, like the door hardware can be considered a safety item to offset the cost of this? that something Andrew could find out for us?
Yes, I can ask that question. Unfortunately, I don't know the answer.
No, I know, I understand that, but that is something.
Everybody good? Okay, thank you.
All right, item E, store hardware. Be it resolved, the Board of Education is to discuss and authorize the purchase of door hardware for the construction project from Hardware Specialty of Du Bois LLC. The cost to the district will be $204,795,000. There is a security option available at an additional cost of $8,526,000.
Motion, Mr. Mike Bassett. Second one, Mr. Daniel Hoover. Questions or comments? Yes, sir, go ahead.
Is that, or has that been determined that those prices on that are at the bid, or is that part of a
Hank, you want to address that? It's part of CoStar's. but-
Right, it's a co-star's price.
What, I'm sorry?
It's a co-star's price, like the state contract co-star's price, not a bid price.
I have a question. Why was this not in the contract in the beginning? How did this get missed?
It didn't get missed. It was planned all along to not be part of the contract. The reason it was planned to not be part of the contract is because you have a current hardware system, and this system needed to work with that system, meaning it needed to be the same manufacturer and the same products. That would have required us to write a proprietary spec. The public bid system doesn't allow a proprietary spec. So we took that out of the public bid process and allowed it to be part of a state contract, CoStar's price, where the school could then get the exact hardware that they needed to work with the hardware they currently have.
That didn't make any sense. Go ahead.
Then why weren't those figures considered in the primary figure for the cost of the school?
That is my fault. I thought I had made that clear that this was an addition, that this was part of the soft costs, but I obviously did not. So the plan right now is to use the contingency for change order money to pay for that piece of it. But all along, this was always planned to be done this way, and it was always planned to be part of the soft costs, which contingency is part of soft costs. But I didn't communicate clearly enough that this should have been, that I thought this should be something that was a line item soft cost, not a contingency for change order soft cost.
I was president then, and I am aware of them.
Obviously, I did not communicate it clearly.
Roland, is this part of the $600 and some $1,000 soft cost? No, it's over and above that, right?
And that cost.
when you say soft cost, you mean,
The allotment you have.
yeah, no, I did not anticipate this was gonna be eaten off of that $650,000 of change.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I have to admit, I don't recall discussion about the loss for some reason. That wasn't speaking. I feel like I've been most meetings, I missed a couple, but I don't think enough that we would have rediscussed it. I'm kind of curious, are these locks is this just for the high school edition, or is this for?
It's for the high school edition, and it's also for some of the exterior doors around the building, and also for some interior renovations where we've been adding doors. But it's basically all the new doors and all the doors that require changing of hardware, which are not all of the doors in the building by far. It's the majority is the high school edition, plus some exterior doors, plus some other interior doors that were added throughout the building.
You said proprietary, I think I'm trying to go back to that. Are you saying you can't bid it out because it's for?
Well, so what you have a manufacturer that you're using for your hardware, and you have a keying system that you're using for your keying. And if we were to change the manufacturer of the hardware or change the keying system, then they wouldn't be compatible and you would have to, everybody would have to carry around two different sets of keys, like a Schlage and a Yale key for all the locks. And you would have to stock replacement parts for multiple manufacturers and styles of door hardware. And the pieces that are part of the security system then might not, the technology of one manufacturer might not talk to the technology of another manufacturer. So you have this issue with your fire alarm systems not communicating with your door hardware, your security systems not communicating with your door hardware. It's one of those pieces in the public bid process that the public bid process doesn't allow for proprietary specifications, meaning a non-substitution spec. But in certain cases, it's one of those things that really makes sense for a school district. So this is the way we handle that.
So you're saying the doors, everything we have is already, it's coming with hardware, you just want to change the hardware?
No, what was bid in the contract were doors. The door slabs are there, the windows are there, and the door frames are there. What's not there are things like the crash bars, the communicators, the closers, and the technology piece, because that would have been the proprietary piece that has to talk to every other piece like that in the district.
So what you're saying is, we have a certain system, and because it had to be that system that we purchased for the better of project, we could not put that as part of the bid process because you were saying you were going to buy a certain product.
Right,
And does that include install?
that's an install price,
I
yes.
saw the thing on your diet.
You say you're not allowed to write a proprietary item in.
We're not allowed to write a proprietary spec in a public bid process for public schools. You have to allow substitutions. So it's what's called a performance spec, not a proprietary spec.
You weren't even allowed to write a spec such that it didn't narrow it down to one manufacturer, but it would.
No, all of our performance specs list 3 different acceptable manufacturers for products.
You can't put a generality in there and put a number for hardware in your bid process? Like say, okay, you might not be able to know what hardware you're getting, but say, okay, we're gonna need $250,000 worth of hardware, let's put that in there.
That's the way we did it. That's the way I thought we were doing it, not through the bid process, because if you do it through the bid process, then you're paying the markup from the contractors for that. So I thought that's what we were doing, but doing it without having you to pay the 15% markup on it by going through CoStars for it. But what the failure was in my ability to clearly communicate to the staff and the board that that's what we had planned on doing.
I'd like to suggest that we revisit this figure.
Well, we have a first and a second. Is there anybody else?
I just had a question of, have these parts already been ordered? And if not, if we hold off on this, how much will this delay the project?
The parts have not been ordered because we have not given them the go-ahead to do that until after it gets board approval. Dave, can you talk a little bit about what it might do to this?
Yeah, the lead time for some of these items are quite long, and we're getting into school time now. A lot of these components are for security and for safety, fire alarms. There's a long lead time in any industry right now for those kind of components, especially security. So the longer we wait, the more expensive it could get.
And can you talk to Andrew, sooner than later, please ask him about the safety rate
Okay,
to try and cover this.
well,
Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Hoover? And Dr. Krug?
No.
Mrs. Krug?
No.
Mr. Krimenacher?
No.
Mrs. Krimenacher? No. Mrs. Lee?
No.
Mr. Shell's absent. Mr. Basil?
Yeah.
Ms. Zenshaw?
Yes.
Motion fails.
We're no longer. Perfect, you're kidding.
Daniel, that's enough. The motion's been done. You had your comment session, we're going on to the next one.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
That's
Go
fine.
ahead.
Sure. Bleacher donation, item F. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the donation of the middle school gymnasium bleachers being replaced in the renovation to Blair County Christian Schools in Altoona, Pennsylvania. The recipient is solely responsible to provide personnel to dismantle, remove, and transport the bleachers from the middle school gym by April. Dave, do we have a date?
Depending on what happens tonight, your decision, we will pass that on.
30th, the 30th.
Can I ask, do we have insurance to cover them, or what's gonna happen if someone drops a bleacher on us? You do a general on insurance. Okay. I'll make that motion,
What is the date? Excuse me.
April 30th, last day of the month.
All right, thank you.
Second by Mrs. Jen Zenshaw. Any comments or questions?
I have a question.
Yes, good.
If the schedule does not work for the Christian Academy, come get them. And we do not remove them by the 30th, does that change your decision?
We can change the date now if we go back.
I can't give, they have to give me a date when they can, get their people here to get them removed.
Is it gonna affect you?
Yeah.
No, we can do it after hours, in the morning.
Going past the 30th,
No.
is it gonna affect
No.
the building?
And just,
It doesn't have to be in April, is what you're saying.
Right, the sooner the better, believe me. Thank you.
I'll say same motion,
All right, be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the donation of the middle school gymnasium bleachers being replaced in the renovation to Blair County Christian School in Altoona, Pennsylvania. The recipient is solely responsible to provide personnel to dismantle, remove, and transport the bleachers from the middle school gym at a date to be determined.
Okay, we have two things on the table. Anybody have comment?
I just was hoping that we wait till the end of the school year if at all possible, as long as the children aren't using bleachers.
I would like to get them removed as soon, there's work there that we can do before the school
Okay.
review.
All right, very good.
We kind of waited until this meeting to give them an answer.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Go ahead, Jen.
Item G, board replacement. Be it resolved, the Board of Education authorizes the administration to advertise for bids to replace the boards for the football stadium seating.
Mrs. Jen Zenshaw. Good. Second, Mr. Mike Basil. Questions or comments?
I have a question.
Anybody who made the motion? Go ahead.
Why are we putting this out for bids? Why is our, maintenance staff not changing the boards?
We have to purchase the boards. We put the boards out for bids.
So on the boards,
The boards, the costs, they do change them. It's just, no?
Happened in the past 2 years.
No. I thought, okay. I stand corrected.
Manpower and say liability.
So is the motion for the bids for the board or for labor?
Both.
Do we have any idea how many boards?
Gotta go down and count them, or they're all different sizes, so when it would go out for bid, they would go down to the stadium. There's a lot of oddball stuff, like 10-foot four that they have to purchase a 12-foot board for. We'll go down, physically mark them, they do a walk around, that way they know all the nuts and bolts that they need.
How many do you typically replace each year?
I think last year we did roughly 100, somewhere around there.
Did the maintenance staff do it? Or did they put out the bid for that last year too?
Last 2 years went out for bid.
Out the bid. Please.
the cost? Do we know what the cost was for the last 2 years and each year?
I think last year was roughly, don't quote me on it, it was $5,000-6,000. We were down there for roughly about a week.
I have one more comment. We set money aside hoping for a football matching grant, anything there? And will that cover some of this?
I've heard nothing about the grant. But I guess if you want to use that money for that, you could.
I think it's appropriate. Right, I think it's already been accounted. Do we have to change the motion?
Wait, are we saying that we want to use the money that was allocated in case we get a grant to pay for the boards? But if we get the grant, then we still need $50,000 or
Is it gonna matter where the money comes from? Is it general fund money? That's what I thought.
I mean, as long as the 50 is there, in the event that we get the grant.
And then this is just, this motion is just advertising for bids. Obviously, there would be another motion.
Gotcha.
Bids.
I just was following one.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, item H, public school facility improvement grant. Be it resolved that the Northern Cambria School District of Cambria County hereby requests a public school facility improvement grant not to exceed $5 million from the Commonwealth Financing Authority to be used for facility improvement at the Northern Cambria High School. The district would be responsible for 25% of the amount awarded.
Okay, motion going once. Going twice. Dead for lack of motion. Okay. Is that all you have?
That's all I have.
All right, business and finance.
CSIU software purchase. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the purchase of the following CSIU software for the 24-25 school year. Fund accounting includes GL, APA, RPOs, and budget prep 2,200. Human resources, $1,975. Payroll, $2,200. Document management, electronic forms, builder, workflow, $8,995.
Motion by Mr. Mike Basil. Second by Mr. Daniel Hoover. Questions or comments? Can I, are these, any of these being used now, or are these all brand new?
Everything's being used, the document management is the one that the board approved, to initiate for this year. So we started the initial steps to get that started, and then that price that's listed there is for next, each year. Yes, we're using all, fund kind, human resources, and payroll for this.
Okay, so you're using the first three. The last one is the new one that you have, that got passed last year, but you didn't start it yet.
No, we have started it. There's a lot of steps that have to be taken to get that up and running. They have to, we've gotten in touch with them. We've had a couple of meetings, Zoom meetings with the company to establish how the process is gonna work. And in fact, I think Chris Barr is meeting with them tomorrow to deal with some of the technical. So that's the one that's gonna go to provide a paperless system. Again, that's the board voted for that, not long ago. We first initiated.
I'm gonna separate the motion.
There's no appendices in this, for this motion. That's why I was asking the question. There's nothing in the, we have no appendix or anything on this stuff. Okay, we're gonna roll call this one.
I'm sorry.
Roll call this one.
I'm
Karen.
sorry, I didn't hear you. I apologize.
That's all right.
It's hard to hear.
Okay, Dr. Krug,
As written, no.
Mrs. Krug?
No, I don't agree with the last item.
Mr. Krimenacher?
You have to say no, how it's written.
Mrs. Krimenacher?
I'm gonna say yes.
Mrs. Lead?
I want to say no, but I'm gonna have to say yes.
Mr. Shell's absent. Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Ms. Zenshaw?
Yes.
And Mrs. Hoover?
Yeah.
And what did Jerry say?
No.
No. Okay. Thank you.
Motion carries.
And Leo, be it resolved, the Board of Education discussed and approves the Ed Leo bill for our website subscription beginning May sixth, 2024 through May 5th, 2025. The cost of the district is $7,608.
Good, motion by Mrs. Markham, I will second that, just to that question, okay? All right, I thought we passed this on the last meeting, why are we doing this again?
I was able to reduce the cost. So I'm showing you a $3,000 reduction.
Okay, the problem is, this motion doesn't say that. This doesn't say that we're replacing the last one we approved, so this could be in addition to what we already approved, the $9,000 one. The problem is the way the motion is written. And this doesn't say it replacing the other motion. So we could be paying up to 16 grand for that.
But you're not.
It doesn't say that.
7,000.
That's the problem. It doesn't say it that way. That's my only problem with this. So, anybody else have a question? Okay, let's roll call that, please.
Okay. Mrs. Krug?
Can we alter that first before we vote, that this is not on top of that, that Ed Leo's not getting all of that money?
I think I'm fine with that. I think it will be understood when we get that voice that I'm only paying that $7,000.
I'm gonna reread it.
Okay.
I would vote to amend. So amend it.
I would just say this is a replacement cost, replaces the prior motion. Fine with that.
This is there.
Can we read?
Or can you reread that to say it replaces the prior motion?
Yeah.
Be it resolved, the Board of Education discussed and approves the Ed Leo bill for our website subscription beginning May 6th, 2024 through May 5th, 2025 to replace the existing website subscription. The cost of the district will be $7,608.
Make a motion, Mark?
Yes, I make.
I'll second it. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Admiral Perry Area VOTEC budget. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the Admiral Perry VOTEC 2024-2025 budget as presented. The cost per student for the 24-25 school year is $5,911.22.
Motion by Mark Krimenacher. Second by Ms. Jen Zenshaw. Got any comments on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries.
Blinsky's Auto Repair. Be it resolved, the Board of Education discussed and approved the repairs needed to the 1996 Dodge Ram diesel pickup truck by Blinsky's Auto Repair in the amount of $1,856.60.
Mr. Mark Krimenacher.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Jared Krimenacher.
I have a question.
Questions or comments, go Jared.
Why is this on for a vote when it's under $2,000?
Indeed. Go ahead, John.
It's on because it's just an estimate, depending on what they get into.
So it should have said that on here.
Huh?
It should have said that on here.
Sorry,
So we're
sorry.
looking to pass it so that we can decide if we want to repair it
You
or not.
wanna spend that much money on that vehicle? That's the other
Is
thing.
it worth spending?
We gotta buy something
So this needs to be amended.
newer one.
You're gonna have to amend that, Maura. This has to say an estimate.
Okay. Be it resolved, the Board of Education discuss and approve the estimate for the repairs needed to the 1996 Dodge Ram diesel pickup truck by Galinsky's Auto Repair in the amount of $1,856.60. I'll make that motion again.
Motion, Mr. Mark Krimenacher,
Second, it.
seconded by Jerry Krimenacher. Any questions or comments? Everyone know?
So, okay, so here's my concern. If we get into it and we incur $1,856.60 in them figuring out what's wrong with it, are we gonna then pay more to get it completely fixed? Or is that like, what's the,
We know what's wrong with it. It's a very labor intense process because you have to lift the motor up to get the oil pan and everything out. They may run into something. That's why I put it on here, just in case you guys are aware of it. If it runs over the $2,000. It's an estimate. I believe this is good and accurate. Just want to let you guys know.
thank you.
Yes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Community Relations Library donation. Be resolved, the Board of Education approves the annual stipend of $4,000 to the Northern Cambria Library for the 2023-24 school year to offset costs of reading, team books, internet service, and programming offered to district students. I will make that motion. Second, by Mr. Norman Krug. Since I made the motion, I'll make a comment. This is one of the things I like to vote yes for. When we give money away, this would be one that I would do that with. So. That's my comment. Anybody else? All in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Curriculum instruction.
A, planning course of study. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the changes made to the planning course of study for the high school beginning in 2024-2025 school year. And that was in appendix 3. I make the motion for that.
Mrs. Norman Krug, second by Mrs. Earl Lee. Questions or comments?
Just like to say thank you to the superintendent and the principal for all the hard work they put into improving our curriculum and making our courses a little tougher and just the overall improvement and the work they put in.
And one of the things that we're adding is the AP Bio class this year.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Item B, textbook adoption. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves adopting a new Bedford Freeman and Worth AP Biology textbook for the 2024-2025 school year at a total cost of, and Toby, that cost is wrong, and I,
It's $2,857.85. $2,857.85.
okay, once again, be it resolved, the Board of Education approves adopting a new Bedford, Freeman, and Worth AP Biology textbook for the 2024-2025 school year at a total cost of $2,857.85. I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Norman Krug. Warren, second by Mrs. Mark Krimenacher. Questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. When I looked at that, I saw that the figure seemed very, very high for the cost of the textbooks that we bought in the past, including the online services. So I reached out to Dr. Kasanian, and found out that that number was wrong. So yes, we are saving $5,000 all roughly, for something, in our favor, of course, but I don't know, if we know these figures ahead, if we can get the correct figures put on the agenda for the voting meeting, I'd appreciate that.
The mistake was that we put both quotes together. We got a quote for 10 books and a quote for 25 books. And, we of course always want to have the proper figures on there. This was just an error.
Are we getting hardback books for these, or is it just online access?
Hardback.
We're getting 10 copies of this book sitting right here.
10 copies.
And it includes online service. The online services are for 1 year. And I don't understand that.
Teacher edition is $500. And the exam view assessment suite is also $500.
Is there gonna be an annual cost for the online for this book then too? Access to online?
There might be. That's $39 a book.
How many students do we have lined up to take it?
I don't know. I don't know we're that far yet.
Okay, anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
All right, legislation, policy development, I have nothing at this time. Personnel,
Item A, superintendent contract. Be resolved, pursuant to section 1037-73 of the school code and section 6 of the contracts for employment of superintendent, the Board of Education hereby notifies the superintendent that the current contract for employment of superintendent will not renew for another term, and another or other candidates will be considered for the office, including the current superintendent. I'll make that motion.
motion by Mr. Jerry Kumanocker. I will second it. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Mrs. Crew,
Yes.
Mr. Krimenacher,
Yes.
Mrs. Krimenacher,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Shell's absent, Mr. Basil.
Yes.
Ms. Zenshaw,
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yes.
Dr. Crew,
Yes.
motion carries.
Item B, superintendent negotiation. Be resolved, the Board of Education will enter into negotiations with the current superintendent for a new contract to start July 1st, 2025.
I'll make that motion. Say one, Mrs. Mark Kumanocker. Questions, comments? Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I just, no point, I don't think got that well. Yeah, I want to make sure publicly that, Laura knew that she had my support, that I think she's done a great job up to this point. I think if, it goes without saying that, yes, we've all had, we all make mistakes at one time, you know, we put a double invoice on a school board meeting and need to make sure that we talk about it publicly, but I think the key is that Laura's done a great job. She's navigated the school district, forward. She, has taken on a lot of resolve with the building project. Had to, you know, at many times sit on her hands and listen to criticisms from the public, but I think overall she's done a great job, and I just want to make sure she publicly knew that she had my, support along with a short number of others of us on the board, so I want to tell her thank you.
Yeah, I would echo those sentiments, and actually, in front of me, I have the goals and the outcomes that the board has accepted each year from Laura. And on paper, you can see that everything that she has promised and that we have agreed to as her goals each year that she's been here have been met and were exceeded. So, she came here and created a curriculum for our school that we did not have before, and I know she wouldn't want me to say that because she doesn't want anyone to think badly of previous administrations, but I'm here to tell you that we did not have a sound curriculum before she got here. She has a PhD in curriculum. She's getting paid a lot less than she could be making in other places, and she has won the hearts and minds of our faculty and staff. And she's one of the bright spots in our district at this point. And I know that there are people in this group that would agree with me, and she fully has my backing.
I want to echo both their sentiments as well. Laura had brought a lot of mental health awareness for our students and our staff. She works great with our administration. You know, we've had some hiccups here and there. Of course, she's human, everyone's human, but I want Laura to know that she does a great job. She works too long sometimes in her hours, and, she has medical support going forward.
And can folks speak? You're not supposed to now. We have a motion on the floor. I'm sorry. That was upon advice from our solicitor, so. Sorry.
Can I just say one more thing, too, please?
Anybody else have a comment first?
Just one thing I want to tell the board too, again, I know we may be divided on some of our topics, but one thing to keep in mind is we're going through a building project. It's very public aware that we have a pretty divided board right now. I'm sure that if I was somebody looking to move, I would think the school district is potentially not the best environment, just based on the way that some of our board conversations go, but at the same time, I think there's opportunities here, and I think during a building project, it's crucial that we try to maintain the staff that we have, to make sure we get through it smoothly. There could be, impacts in terms of, the way the project goes. And also, any delayed negotiations could, impact even retaining Laura, if that's the direction board wants to go. So make sure that if this is the direction they're both, that, that's all taken into consideration. That's it. Thanks, Tim.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Krimenacher.
No.
Mrs. Krimenacher.
No.
Mrs. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Shell.
This is just for negotiations, right? Yes.
Mr. Basil.
Yeah.
Ms. Zenshaw.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yes.
Dr. Crowe.
No.
Mrs. Crowe.
No.
Now it's 4-4.
It's past 5-4.
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
5-4.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed one yes.
I have,
5-4.
We're
Motion carries.
past that, I'm sorry.
oh, wait, we need a super majority to end someone.
No, you don't.
Oh, we do. We just
No.
voted on that.
No, you don't. You don't.
Just 5 and higher?
You do not. You
Oh,
should read
okay.
006.
No?
Well, you fire them. You need them to fire.
Nobody's been determined.
We're not gonna enter into negotiations first?
Yeah. we're not.
You just passed.
That one here.
Okay, next one, please.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Resignation. Be it resolved, the Board of Education will accept with regrets the resignation of Mr. John Messina as the maintenance director effective June 1st, 2024. I will make that motion.
Question, Mr. Jerry, come on. I'll second it. Question, comments? Roll call.
Mrs. Krimenacher.
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Yeah.
Mr. Shell.
Yes.
Mr. Basil.
Yes.
Mrs. Zenshaw.
Yes, with regrets.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yes.
Dr. Crowe.
Yes.
Mrs. Crowe.
Yes.
Mr. Krimenacher.
Yes.
Motion carries.
MB, maintenance director of maintenance. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves to post and advertise for the position of director of maintenance. I'll make that motion.
Question, Mr. Jerry, come on. I'll second it. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Item E, school aid substitute list. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the addition of the following to the substitute aid list for the district. Sarah Watson and Monica Phillips. Make that motion.
Question, Mr. Jerry, come on. Mrs. Von Crook. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Item F, sabbatical leave extension. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the request of employee 2601, whose return date is scheduled for April 23rd, 2024. To extend her sabbatical leave for the remainder of the 23-24 school year. Make that motion.
Question, Mr. Jerry, come on. Second on Mrs. Martin. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I oppose. That's me, Karen.
Okay, I got it. Motion carries.
Item G, summer maintenance workers. Be resolved, the Board of Education approves the hiring of 2 to 4 summer maintenance workers for the summer beginning of June 3rd, 2024 through the end of August 2024.
Okay, we need a motion. That'd be on the floor, it's on the floor. Mr. Mike Basil, motion, and second by Carol Lee. Now, question. Mike, any questions?
Only one quick question. Did we ever have a breeze on? I don't remember.
We usually have 3 or 4, and while you ask that question, you're gonna need as much help as possible this school year. You have all those classrooms, you have the library that needs moved. If Dave wants to add anything, if you can get 4 to cut grass, and we got a lot of classrooms and everything to move this summer. Especially sooner than later, right at the end of the year.
Yeah. Are these the same kids too that helped Chris the one time with,
Yeah, there's usually maybe one kid that goes to IT sometimes, I believe, and I don't wanna speak for Chris, but Chris did not want this year.
okay,
So, yeah, if you can get 3, 4 kids, that will definitely help offset the movement of everything.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, it said 2 to 4. I think we need a number there.
I'm fine with that range.
You can do a range? Okay.
The way it's been going, we'll be lucky to get to, right? Every year.
Since we last year opened up the high school kids, no, we've had a better turnout.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Item H, create an Act 93 position. Be resolved, the Board of Education approves the creation of the school physiological position under the Act 93 contract with the starting salary of. Is there a salary?
To be determined by the.
We don't have the salary there.
To be determined by the board.
We talked anywhere from 68 to 72. I don't know what the board's comfortable with.
They said 68, 72. What do you put
We're
in?
up 60,000 in and we'll take it. Take it from there. We don't have a figure for in there to start.
The figure's gonna die for last motion.
Don't know.
I wrote it that way because it didn't have a specific amount of board.
Put a
And
max,
I did not want to presume an amount. That's a board decision.
Kevin, can we change it to like a maximum so then we know a limit?
Why don't we just put a 60 in there? If you're in the 60,000 range, just put 60 for that. Well, a 60,000 figure is better than anything else.
Listen, superintendent says 68 to 72. I'm gonna do 70. Just
Okay.
because that's what the range is. I'll take the mean. We'll go with that. So we have a motion on that. Mr. Mike Basil. Second by Ben Genshaw. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, just to clarify, that we are spending. Is it approximately 50-something thousand on this service right now for, this is going to be replacing the 3 days a week. Essentially contract, right?
Yes, this will be,
Total cost.
this will be 5 days a week, not 3 days, and we're currently spending 55,000. 3 days virtually. This would be an actual person, 5 days a week.
And would there be potential, I think, possibly there's a need of this service outside of this school, we wouldn't need to 5 days a week, we could potentially
Yes, we could.
share that. If
Yes.
we, not saying we wouldn't need it, but if we did have the possibility.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
My comment is, I will not put this under the Act 93 contract. I know it was done that way in the past, but it makes it equals of the principals, and I will not do it. That's my comment. Okay, roll call.
I apologize. Who was first? Hold on. You, was it you, Mark? Okay, Carol. Carol, Mrs. Lee,
Yeah.
Mr. Shell,
Yeah.
Mr. Basil,
Yes.
Ms. Zenshaw,
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yeah.
Dr. Krug,
No, as written.
Mrs. Krug,
No.
Mr. Krimenacher,
Not being part of the Act 93.
Mrs. Krimenacher,
Yes,
motion carries.
Okay, staff development,
Nothing at this time.
student activities.
Right, a marching band t-shirt, be it resolved the Board of Education approves supplying the marching band with t-shirts for the trip to Disney World. The cost is not to exceed $450. I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Mike Basil. Second by Mrs. Zen Zenshaw. Questions or comments? Mike, go ahead.
Sometimes it sometimes comes from like the boosters or.
It's always.
It's always.
He's asking for an additional $450 because the boosters has already paid $30,000 towards the trip. So he had asked that if the board would be willing to donate the $450 for the rest.
Do we know who's doing them? Have we talked to our local company that we typically use?
I think he typically does use a local company. That's who he uses.
Roll call.
Mr. Shell,
Yeah.
Mr. Basil,
Yes.
Ms. Zenshaw,
Yeah.
Mrs. Hoover,
Yes.
Dr. Krug,
No.
Mrs. Krug,
No, it should be a boosters thing. It's such a precedent is all.
Mr. Krimenacher.
No.
Mrs. Krimenacher,
no,
Mrs. Lee,
No.
motion fails.
I'll just donate the $450.
I'd rather do that than try to activate or largely not have money in the.
Okay, next item, please.
National History Day cake competition, be resolved, the Board of Education approves the request for Mrs. Sarah Klein to allow one high school student who qualified for the National History Day state competition to be escorted by her parents to the University of Grand on April 20, 2024. Cost of district is $498. See attachment number 4. I'll make that motion.
I'm second.
Was that you, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, who was second, Jen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions or comments?
Then I got two quick questions. One, do we always reimburse mileage for a trip versus actual fuel receipts for? The only reason I ask is the mileage is almost $300 on that estimate. It's like mileage versus gas is grand.
It all depends how many people gone and whether or not the van is paid. In other words, it's been historically, the board has said van is available, no anticipated use of that van will be during the period of
Parents
time.
could drive that, no, in this case, like.
No,
yeah,
this-
parents- No, so
Yeah.
this is the parents taking the child. I'm
Yeah.
just curious, like, do we ever do actual gas reimbursement versus?
No, it's either, it's IRS, mileage.
Okay, and secondly, is there another cost, Laura, you know, on that, on the actual reimbursement form was submitted, it's an estimate, but there's no meals in there, but then the cost is more than what the total, more than what the line items add up to.
It's
I'm just curious. that-
$288 per mileage.
The student will get food.
Yeah,
Is that where the difference is maybe?
meals was $150, $498.
There's,
Yeah.
I apologize, Laura.
That's
I
all
won't
right.
catch up, Laura.
No, it was 288.10 was the mileage.
Again, it's an estimate. I'm assuming we're just gonna do actual anyway.
Yes,
Technically,
yeah, I think it's off by
maybe the meals or something on there for the student.
$150. Parking fees, meals, gratuities, lodging. It was all lumped together. But you're right, we will do actual. These are estimates.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Basil,
Yes.
Ms. Zenshaw,
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover,
Yes.
Dr. Krug,
Yes.
Mrs. Krug,
Yes.
Mr. Krimenacher,
Yes.
Mrs. Krimenacher,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Yeah.
Mr. Shell.
Yep.
Motion carries.
Transportation.
Bus driver approval, be it resolved, the Board of Education approves Billiana Kodak as the driver for the Northern Cambria School District. And we know that we have clearances. And
Yes, we have clearances for all of the drivers.
perfect. I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mrs. Hoover. Second by Mr. Mike. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries.
Having the bus driver approval, be it resolved, the Board of Education approves Michael Narman as the driver for the Northern Cambria School District.
Clerk will Mrs. Marvell, or Mark Krimenacher. DJ Shell seconds. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Motion carries.
Board of Education approved Jennifer Goss as the driver for the Northern Cambria School District. I'll make that motion.
Mr. Denton Hoover, second by Mr. DJ Shell. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries.
Item B, be it resolved, the Board of Education approves Mohammed Woods as the driver for the Northern Cambria School District.
Mr. DJ Shell. Second by Mr. Mike Basil. Comments? All in favor? Any opposed? I oppose.
Motion carries.
Athletics. Item A, stipend the Northern Cambria Recreation Committee. Be it resolved, the Board of Education, in addition to the lease agreement, have an additional annual payment of the Northern Cambria Recreation Committee. I'm not sure whether it's going to be, I did request that be $5,000. To help defray the cost of the updates, making the baseball and softball fields above and beyond regular maintenance. As you understand, it's been a pretty wet season, so a lot of damage was done to the fields with fencing, just upkeep and routine things. Oh, yeah, I'll make a motion. Okay, second,
I'll second.
I'll do it myself.
Daniel, sir. Daniel, second.
I second it. And then, so basically what I'm saying is I think this shows, instead of us fighting every year about, a contract or a lease, it shows good faith that, our boys are gonna have to have that field to play on. Not sure what will happen with girls softball field, but you know, it's, I think, just good faith for us to be able to help them out where we can, and show that we want to help make improvements to the field. That's what I'm. Good, Mike.
Well, I agree would be helpful to probably contribute something. I think the 5,000 honestly would probably be, I mean, it's more than the entire contract for this season. So I do think, I did mention the last thing, it would be nice if we could somehow start to organize the teams to, you know, make a work day down there to help support the fields, and that's a lot of extra labor to contribute to the fields to help. So while I agree, we probably could support them, same as we do for the other organizations, libraries, and other ones. I think the amount might be a little bit, it'd be all what I would consider very reasonable, sure.
Anybody else first? Okay, quick legal question. I'm sure our kids could do like a cleanup day, but as far as work day, they wouldn't be able to do in case they would get hurt, right? There would be, would that go on school liability or on the Rex liability? It's different if like I go donate my time to clean up and do those things, that would be on me, but as far as having.
The answer is it could be both. It depends. I mean, I could pull a certain answer right now, but the school could face liability.
Sure. So, and I guess I get that it's a lot of money and that we've spent a lot of money on updating the things, but at some point, when do we give back to the kids? I mean, our stadium is a dinosaur, the track needs everything done, our rec fields are starting to get there, but we just can't think that we can play on pennies on the dollar and everybody be happy. Okay, roll call.
Well, hold on, I have a
Oh, I'm
comment.
sorry.
The problem I have with this is it locks us into an annual payment right in the motion.
That's the point. Okay, roll call.
Ms. Zenshaw,
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover,
Yes.
Dr. Crew,
No.
Mrs. Crew,
No.
Mr. Krimenacher,
No.
Mrs. Krimenacher,
No.
Mrs. Lee,
No.
Mr. Shell,
Yeah.
Mr. Basil.
No.
Motion fails.
Okay, next. Football helmets. Be it resolved, the Board of Education authorizes the purchase of 13 football helmets in the amount of $5,322.45 for the 24-25 football season. I'll make that motion. So Mr. PJ Shell. Mr. Carol Lee. Questions or comments on this one? All in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Item C, softball field. Be it resolved, the Board of Education authorized the purchase of breakaway bases for the practice softball field at a cost not to exceed $685. I'll make that one. Mr. Peter Shell. Or Mr. Mike Basil. Questions or comments?
Danielle, Kevin.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Couldn't see the hand. Okay, I have a comment. These are unnecessary and they are a disaster. There's only one team that used them when I was playing, it was United, and they are terrible. Absolutely not necessary. That's my comment. So all in favor? Oh, go ahead, Mike.
The only thing I would suggest is that we wait on the basis until we get the request, well, perhaps she's looking at the field to see what we need, to probably make sense to make sure we get what we need.
Then let's roll call.
I do have a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If we get the breakaway bases in, we just felt that that was a way we could start using it as a practice field. It would be safer for the students. So that was the purpose of putting that in now.
I disagree. I have seen breakaway bases cause just as many injuries as anything else. They are a disaster. I've been doing it for 34 years. So roll call.
Mrs. Hoover,
Yes.
Dr.
You
Crew,
know where I stand, no.
Mrs. Crew,
No.
Mr. Krimenacher,
No.
Mrs. Krimenacher,
No.
Mrs. Lee,
No.
Mr. Shell,
Still with the flow, I'm going no.
Mr. Basil.
Yes.
Ms. Zenshaw,
Yeah.
motion fails.
Next. Next. Item D, resignation. Be it resolved, the Board of Education accepts with regret the resignation of Brian Miller as the girls' basketball coach effective at the end of the 23-24 school year. I will make that motion. Mr. PJ Shell. Mr. Carol Lee. Any questions or comments? Well, all in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, payment of the bills. Be resolved, the payment of the bills for the month of April 2024 be approved as presented. The matter received and filed. I'll make that motion. Second one, Mr. Jerry Krimenacher. I do have a couple comments on this, and I have been talking to Roland, and I'm gonna ask him to explain it because he knows better than I. There are two things on there that's SOTOR Technologies on vape detectors. One's for support and maintenance, one's for annual renewal. The support and maintenance was $2,400. The annual renewal was $27,000. By our policies, we had a $2,000 limit. That should have been on as motions instead of being put like this. Also, there's no attachment for these, and Roland if you don't mind.
First of all, those two invoices are the same thing. The the explanation that was written was just written differently. There are two bills because we get billed separately for the high school units as opposed to the elementary. Units. We installed the first ones, we installed them a month apart. So those were all through the grants from the county for the Cameron County Drug and Alcohol Use. My mistake in not having that part of the motion, but we have a contract, and it was my understanding, and incorrectly, that our contract required us to maintain those for the first, they gave us the maintenance and, what's the other word?
What was,
Yeah.
annual renewal?
Right, but they gave us that free for the first year, the company did. But the second one was required, second year forward is required. So my understanding or my misunderstanding was that we already signed a contract to do that. So there wouldn't be necessarily a need for the board to make a motion. But there is nothing in that contract, which I thought there was, that said we must do that on an annual basis. It's really not addressed. We say we're not gonna do that because the county gave us $26,000 to buy those vaping machines. So if we choose at this point not to maintain them, then I don't know what to do. It's not addressed in the contract. So I apologize for the fact that it wasn't brought before. However, I felt at the time of payment that it was part of the contract and there would be a need for the board to approve it since it's already contracted.
Everybody okay with that explanation? Okay, my only request is that, since this says annual renewal and support maintenance, and there are two different amounts in the future, would you be able to bring those promotions?
Oh, absolutely. But again, that was just the explanation that was written down by accounts payable. When they entered the bills in the system, she didn't have those both bills together.
Okay.
We were billed one in March, one in April. So however, they were both with the same thing other than different bills. So it's just the way they were written out.
Yeah,
Both for maintenance and.
I understand, but the total is 5,100.
Exactly.
Okay. Second one was Clearfield. Everybody was good with that explanation for paying the bill then. Okay. Clearfield wholesale paper battery, it was $2,073.70. I don't know what that means. We're getting a battery from a wholesale paper company
What was that, John?
for a $2,000 battery?
That has to be two bills combined, because we did a PO for the batteries. And we had our, this was what? 5 months ago, we had our scrubber up there for repairs. And while it was there, the batteries were dead. We didn't put a PO. It's not definitely that much. It has to be combined with something else.
Okay, because it's written as a battery for $2,073.70 from a paper company.
Batteries were
They repaired that.
600, something like that.
I did, you know.
The code says $2,073.70, and the description was battery. From a paper company. That's why I was wondering. Yeah.
With our struggles.
Yeah. It was just a question I had.
You say $2,000,
$2,073.70.
$566 for installed new upgraded harness that goes to drive motor and brake clean squeegee frame. That's for the cleaner. The material is $395, the labor is $171, so that's $566 of the total. $888, there was a battery group. Two batteries at $444 a piece, $888. And then $600 is the paper towels,
Good enough.
facial tissue, so on and so forth.
Everybody good with that explanation there? Okay, good. It just was very ambiguous. Okay. All right, anybody else have questions or comments or anything? All in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Any items you guys want to put on the meeting of the whole?
have a question.
Yes, Dan.
So a couple times throughout the meeting tonight, you asked questions of our administration. Did we not have these questions prior to the meeting? I know everyone's time is very valuable. And so just like, for example, the most recently, the exchange that we had clarification. Could we not have eliminated this conversation in the public eye and had it prior to the meeting and then had clarification if it had been resurrected?
Well, when I did, I just said that.
Yeah, we did on the one, yeah.
And it was a big enough item that I think the public has a right to know what the finances are. It's not a big deal, I just have to clarify.
No, sure, and I'm not making a big deal of it, I'm just asking for sake of time, if we had these conversations before, do we have to have them again?
What you're asking. It's just an open meeting. Clarification, plus we spend as much time on commenting than we will do asking a question about that. That would be honest with you. Anything on to the agenda for the account, or the accountants? Okay, we're gonna go into an executive session, folks, we are not gonna vote on anything when we come back. Okay, so we'll, except for adjourning. We'll have to vote on it. Okay, so be it resolved, the Board of Education moves to executive session to discuss union contract personnel and or legal matters at 7:37 PM. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Jerry, come on, all in favor?
No, I.